What happens when a royal confrontation meets daytime television's most controversial hosts? You won't believe what unfolds when Prince Harry sits down with the View panel for what was supposed to be a routine promotional interview, only to witness one of the most explosive on-air meltdowns in recent television history. This exclusive footage was pulled from broadcast within hours, but we've got the inside story of exactly what went down in those final moments before the cameras stopped rolling. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're not going to believe what unfolds when royal protocol meets daytime drama at its absolute worst. The stage was set for disaster from the moment Prince Harry walked onto the View set. What viewers at home didn't see was the tension already brewing backstage, where producers were frantically adjusting the teleprompter and whispering urgent instructions to the hosts. Harry had agreed to appear on the show to discuss his latest charitable initiatives and upcoming memoir chapters, but it was clear from his body language that he was already on edge about something. Whoopi Goldberg opened the segment with her trademark directness, but there was an unusual sharpness in her voice that regular viewers would immediately recognize as trouble. "So, Harry, you're here to talk about your charity work, but I think America wants to know something else entirely," she began, leaning forward with that predatory smile that has made countless guests squirm in their seats over the years. "When exactly are you going to stop playing the victim and take some real responsibility for the damage you've done to your own family?" The question hit like a sledgehammer, completely derailing what was supposed to be a feel-good segment about youth mentorship programs. Harry's jaw visibly tightened, and his media-trained composure flickered for just a moment before he attempted to redirect. "Well, Whoopi, I think if we're talking about responsibility, we should focus on the positive impact we can make together through—" "Oh, no, no, no," Joy Behar interrupted with that cackling laugh that has become her signature weapon against uncomfortable guests. "You don't get to come on our show and give us your rehearsed talking points. We're not your royal press secretary, honey. You've spent years trashing your family in public, making millions off their pain, and now you want to play charity saint? The American people aren't buying it." The other co-hosts exchanged glances that spoke volumes about where this was heading. Sarah Haynes attempted to throw Harry a lifeline with a softer question about his children, but Alyssa Farah Griffin immediately pounced, cutting her off mid-sentence with the kind of aggressive interruption that has become the View's calling card for destroying guests they've decided to target. "Let's be honest about what this really is," Griffin said, her voice rising, with the kind of manufactured outrage that plays well to their core audience. "You've turned family dysfunction into a multi-million-dollar brand. Your grandmother died knowing her grandson was out there selling family secrets to Netflix and Oprah. How do you sleep at night knowing that?" Harry's hands gripped the arms of his chair, and those familiar with royal body language would have recognized the warning signs immediately. His voice remained controlled, but there was steel underneath when he responded. "I think you're mischaracterizing—" "Am I?" Whoopi jumped back in, sensing blood in the water. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you found a very profitable way to get revenge on a family that you felt rejected you. And now you're sitting here trying to rehabilitate your image while your father is dealing with cancer, and your brother is trying to hold the monarchy together. That's not victim behavior to you?" The studio audience, which had been politely applauding just minutes earlier, was now completely silent, sensing they were witnessing something that would never make it to air in its original form. Camera operators were getting frantic signals from the control room, but they kept rolling, knowing they were capturing television gold, even if it would never see the light of day. Sunny Hostin, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly leaned forward with that prosecutorial intensity that has dismantled many a guest's composure. "Harry, I've been sitting here listening to you try to deflect, but let me ask you something direct. Do you honestly believe that your actions haven't contributed to the stress that may have affected your father's health? Because timing is everything, And your book came out right when your family was dealing with some of their most serious challenges. The question was designed to cut deep, and it worked. Harry's carefully maintained media facade began to crack in real time. "That is completely out of line," he said, his voice dropping to a level that anyone who knew him would recognize as dangerous territory. "You're suggesting that I'm somehow responsible for my father's illness? That's not journalism. That's character assassination." But the View hosts smelled vulnerability and moved in for the kill with the kind of coordinated attack that has made their show infamous for destroying public figures they've decided to target. Joy Behar laughed that distinctive, dismissive cackle that has become her weapon of choice. "Character assassination? Honey, you wrote the book on that, literally. You assassinated your own family's character for money and fame." The tension in the studio was now so thick it was almost visible. Production assistants were making frantic gestures from the wings, but the hosts were in full attack mode, seemingly oblivious to how far over the line they had already crossed. Harry was no longer attempting his diplomatic responses. His royal training was warring with his very human instinct to fight back against what had become a coordinated character assassination. And then Whoopi delivered the line that would push everything past the point of no return, setting up what was about to become one of the most explosive confrontations in daytime television history. "You know what, Harry? Your mother would be ashamed of what you've become," Whoopi said with cold deliberation, her words cutting through the studio like a blade. "Diana fought to protect her sons from exactly the kind of public spectacle you've turned your life into. She'd be disgusted watching you profit off family pain while hiding behind her memory to justify it." The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Every camera in the studio caught the moment Harry's face went completely white, then flushed red, with a fury that years of royal protocol training couldn't contain. The mention of his mother, the one topic every interviewer knew was completely off-limits, had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. "How dare you?" Harry said, his voice barely above a whisper but carrying more menace than if he had shouted. "How dare you bring my mother into this? You didn't know her. You have no right to speak about what she would think." But Whoopi wasn't backing down. If anything, she leaned in harder, sensing she had found the nuclear button. "Oh, I think I do. Have the right. Diana was beloved by Americans, and we watched her protect you boys with everything she had. And now we're watching you spit on that protection by turning your family trauma into entertainment. You think she'd be proud of you, cashing in on the very pain she died trying to shield you from?" The other hosts sensed the shift in energy and piled on with the kind of ruthless pack mentality that has made The View notorious for destroying guests they've marked for humiliation. Joy Behar jumped in with her trademark viciousness. "Your mother gave her life trying to give you boys some privacy and normalcy. And here you are splashing your family's business all over Netflix. That's not honoring her memory, sweetie. That's exploiting it." Sarah Haynes, abandoning any pretense of neutrality, added her voice to the chorus of attacks. "Diana would have handled this with grace and dignity. She would have worked things out privately, within the family. She wouldn't have turned it into a global media circus for profit." Harry was now visibly shaking, his hands clenched into fists, on the table. When he spoke, his voice carried the full weight of years of suppressed rage and grief. "You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. My mother was killed by the same media machine that you're all part of. She was hounded to death by people exactly like you. And now you have the audacity to sit there and lecture me about what she would want." Alyssa Farah Griffin saw an opening and went for the throat with surgical precision. "So that's your excuse for everything? Blame the media? Your mother faced real persecution, Harry. She faced a hostile press and a cold royal family, and she still maintained her dignity. She didn't write tell-all books or give revenge interviews. She certainly didn't move to another country and spend years attacking the institution she married into." The studio audience was now completely silent, sensing they were witnessing something that had moved far beyond entertainment into genuinely ugly territory. Camera operators continued filming despite increasingly frantic signals from the control room, knowing they were capturing something unprecedented. Sonny Hostin delivered what seemed like the final blow with prosecutor-level precision. Your mother protected the monarchy even when it failed to protect her. She understood duty and service in a way that, frankly, you never have. She would be heartbroken to see you using her death as justification for destroying everything she tried to preserve for your brother and his children. That was the moment Harry finally snapped. Rising from his chair with the kind of controlled fury that only comes from years of royal breeding mixed with genuine rage, he looked directly at each host in turn. You want to talk about my mother? Fine. Let's talk about my mother. She was failed by an institution that was supposed to protect her. She was betrayed by people she trusted. And she was killed by a media obsession that you people perpetuate every single day. His voice was rising now, all pretense of diplomatic composure abandoned. And now you sit here, using her name, using her memory, to attack me for having the courage to break a cycle that killed her. You're part of the same system that destroyed her life, and you have the unmitigated gall to lecture me about what she would want? Whoopi wasn't backing down, her voice dripping with contempt. What I see is a spoiled prince who couldn't handle the pressure of royal life. So he ran away and is now making millions telling everyone how badly he was treated. Your mother faced real challenges, real threats, and real isolation. She didn't have the luxury of a multi-million-dollar Netflix deal to cushion her landing. Joy Behar laughed that cruel laugh that has become her signature weapon. Honestly, Harry, do you even hear yourself? You're sitting here in your designer clothes, having made millions off your family drama, trying to compare your situation to your mother's actual persecution. It's almost insulting to her memory. The confrontation had now reached a fever pitch that was making even the seasoned production crew uncomfortable. Harry was standing now, his royal training warring with very human fury. You don't get to define my mother's legacy. You don't get to use her name as a weapon against me. And you certainly don't get to sit there and pretend you have any moral authority when you're part of the exact same system that killed her. But the View hosts sensed they had him cornered and moved in for what they thought would be the killing blow, setting up the explosive final confrontation that would end with Harry's dramatic exit from the studio. Whoopi stood up from her chair, matching Harry's energy with her own brand of aggressive confrontation. You want to talk about systems and cycles? Let's talk about accountability. Your mother never threw her in-laws under the bus on international television. She never moved to another continent to trash-talk the family that gave her everything. She handled her pain with class, something you clearly never learned. The words hit Harry like physical blows, and something fundamental shifted in his demeanor. The careful media training, the diplomatic restraint, the years of biting his tongue, all of it evaporated in an instant. When he spoke, his voice carried the full force of years of suppressed fury and grief. Class? You want to talk about class? Harry's voice was now completely unleashed, his British accent cutting through the studio like a sword. There's nothing classy about what you people do here every single day. You sit behind this desk and tear people apart for entertainment. You profit off misery and call it journalism. My mother was hounded to death by people exactly like you, and now you have the absolute nerve to use her death as a weapon against her son. Joy Behar tried to interrupt with another one of her dismissive laughs, but Harry wasn't having it. He turned on her with the kind of intensity that silenced even her legendary mouth. No, you don't get to laugh this off. You don't get to make this into another punchline for your audience. You crossed a line that should never be crossed, and now you're going to hear exactly what I think about it. The studio was now in complete chaos. Producers were screaming instructions through earpieces, camera operators were frantically trying to follow the action, and the audience sat in stunned silence as they witnessed the complete breakdown of what was supposed to be a routine promotional interview. Alyssa Farah Griffin tried to regain control of the situation, but her voice betrayed her own shock at how far things had escalated. Harry, I think we need to take a step back here. This has gotten way out of hand. Out of hand? Harry whirled on her with barely contained rage. You spent the last 20 minutes systematically attacking my character, my motives, my family, and finally my dead mother, and now you want to call time out? That's not how this works. You opened this door, and now you're going to deal with what's on the other side of it. Sunny Hostin, her prosecutorial instincts still firing, made one final attempt to justify their attack. Harry, we're asking legitimate questions about your public statements and actions. If you can't handle scrutiny, maybe you shouldn't be making public appearances. That was the final straw. Harry's response came with the full force of years of royal training weaponized into devastating precision. Legitimate questions? You call invoking my dead mother's memory to score cheap points legitimate journalism? You call coordinated character assassination legitimate scrutiny? Let me tell you what's legitimate. I came here to talk about helping young people, about making a positive difference in the world, and you turned it into a lynch mob because that's what gets you ratings. He began moving toward the edge of the set, his security detail stepping closer as they sensed the situation was about to reach its breaking point. You want to know what my mother would think? She'd be disgusted by what you people represent. She'd be appalled that her son was subjected to this kind of coordinated attack by people who call themselves journalists, but are really just professional bullies. Whoopi made one last desperate attempt to maintain her authority, but her voice cracked slightly under the pressure. You can't just storm off every time someone asks you hard questions. That's not how the real world works. Harry stopped dead in his tracks and turned back to face her with a look that could have melted steel. Hard questions? Is that what you call what just happened here? You didn't ask me hard questions about my work, my beliefs, or my choices. You orchestrated a character assassination designed to humiliate me for your entertainment. And then you had the unforgivable audacity to drag my dead mother into it. The entire studio held its breath as Harry delivered his final devastating blow. I've dealt with real journalists, real hard questions, real scrutiny my entire life. What you people do isn't journalism. It's exploitation. It's the same toxic media culture that killed my mother, and I will not sit here and be subjected to it for one more second. Joy Behar, in a last-ditch effort to save face, called out as Harry began to walk away. Well, I guess we know who really can't handle the truth. Harry stopped one final time, his back still to the panel, and without turning around delivered the line that would define the entire confrontation. The truth? The truth is that you've just proven exactly why I was right to step away from a system that enables people like you. The truth is that my mother would be proud of me for not sitting here and taking abuse from professional bullies who hide behind the pretense of journalism. He turned back one last time, his voice now calm, but carrying absolute finality. And the truth is that this conversation is over. With that, Prince Harry walked off the view set, followed by his security team, leaving the hosts sitting in stunned silence as the cameras continued to roll. The control room was in chaos. Producers were screaming into their headsets, and the studio audience sat in complete shock at what they had just witnessed. For several long moments, the host sat in unprecedented silence, the weight of what had just happened settling over them like a heavy blanket. Finally, Whoopi attempted to regain control, but her voice lacked its usual authority. Well, I guess that's our show for today. The cameras finally stopped rolling, but the damage was done. What was supposed to be a routine promotional interview had devolved into one of the most explosive confrontations in daytime television history, with footage so inflammatory that it would be pulled from broadcast within hours. The View hosts had pushed too far, crossed too many lines, and finally encountered a guest who refused to be intimidated by their signature brand of coordinated attack journalism. The studio cleared in uncomfortable silence, with production staff and audience members alike recognizing they had witnessed something that would be talked about for years to come. The moment when The View's aggressive tactics finally backfired spectacularly, leaving them sitting in the wreckage of their own making as their target walked away with his dignity intact and their credibility in tatters.